mechanical engineering, so I go to Villanova University. I'll go ahead and put my schedule from last semester on the screen. Hello everybody, it is Zoe and welcome back to another new video on my channel. So I go back to college in just a couple of short weeks, but I thought it would be helpful if I looked back, reflected on my fall semester, and just talked about my experience doing online school, my experience doing my major and my minors, and things like that. So I am majoring in mechanical engineering, so if any of you guys are thinking about going into that major, then hopefully this video will give you a little bit of insight as to what kind of classes I'm taking, and the workload and experience and all of that kind of stuff, and kind of a little bit more of a glimpse into what it means to be an engineering major. So first of all, I just wanted to kind of talk about what the learning environment was like. So I go to Villanova University. I'm majoring in mechanical engineering. I have a minor in business and I'm potentially thinking of minoring also in mechatronics and or sustainability studies, and I'm also in their honors program. We were able to come back to campus this past fall. I've just finished up my fall semester of my sophomore year, so my second year at Villanova. I lived in an apartment on campus with 3 other girls. First of all, I absolutely loved having an apartment. Most sophomores do not usually live in apartments. There's a good handful of us, but the majority of them still live in dorms with just a room. And I definitely preferred, especially with the situation last semester, being in an apartment. I felt like it gave me a lot more space and freedom to cook the food that I wanted and kind of go other places besides just my one little bedroom, like our living room, for example. So that kind of thing was really nice. In terms of social life, it didn't really exist. The majority of activities and meetings and things were online. I did get to go to tap classes for the club I'm in for tap ensemble for a couple of months, and I spent a lot of time with my friends exploring the campus, honestly. We did a lot of exploring different buildings late at night, which was always a lot of fun, but definitely not something I probably would have done had the world not been in a pandemic. We were always in pretty small groups whenever I was doing that. We weren't allowed to have more than like a 1-to-1 ratio in our dorms or apartments or whatever, so generally the biggest group I was ever in was 8 people, but my friend group is only like 6-5, so like I said, our classes were a combination of being online and in person. So I'm going to go through each of my classes and kind of talk about the experience in each one, what the workload was like, how many tests, that kind of thing, so you get a little bit more of a feel for what it means to be a mechanical engineering major. I'll go ahead and put my schedule from last semester on the screen. Right now, I took 18.5 credits, and I think that is equal to hours. I think I was in class technically 18.5 hours a week. So I had 6 total classes. My first class I'm going to talk about is the first class I had every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I believe, at 9:10, and that was my environmental ethics class. I used this class to fill my ethics requirement, but since I'm also possibly doing a minor in sustainability studies, it also counted towards that. This class was 100% online and it was discussion based. So we tended to alternate between having Zoom live synchronous sessions where we would have discussions over certain topics and having just recorded lectures that our professor would send to us on those particular days. We'd have readings for each class, and those were like what we would wind up discussing on the discussion days, and on the non-discussion days it was just kind of to help you be guided, and he tended to go over the material in the PowerPoints. We had one paper that we had to write about climate change, which was very fun, and then we had 2 exams. We had a midterm and a final. Both of them were just timed essays. Overall, I really liked this class. It is something I was very interested in. We had a lot of really good discussion, even though it was over Zoom, which I was kind of nervous about because you know how you get on Zoom and then everyone's just like, camera off. We didn't have that problem and it actually turned out to work really well. My next class was Physics 2, which was Electricity and Magnetism, or E&M. I had to take this class. It's part of the curriculum. It was definitely like 100% online, and it was all pretty much asynchronous. So at the beginning of the week, our professor, or one of the professors who taught the sections, because there are 2 professors and they alternated with the videos each week, would post probably like 10 to 15 videos of about 5 to 10 minutes each that we would have to watch. And then on Fridays, we would have our live recitation, which would be over Zoom, and we just go over lots of practice problems. We had to do homework through a website every week, and we also had 3 exams and 1 final. These were mainly multiple choice with like 1 longer question where you could get partial credit. For our exams, we just had to print out the exam and then turn it in within like a 24-hour period, which I really liked because I feel like with physics, and I'm going to talk about this as well with calculus, you really like have to be able to like write out the problems, and it was open note, it was open book. Not going to complain about that. I also had a physics lab, so this is class number 3. I had this once a week and we did a combination of experiments from Physics 1 and Physics 2. I personally preferred the Physics 1 experiments, which are all mechanics, which makes sense since like that's my major. I just enjoyed this lab so much more than I enjoyed my chemistry lab from freshman year. Chemistry and I just did not get along. But it was in person, my lab. I went in, I didn't have like any lab partners or anything. We all had our own tables, our own experiments that we would do, but we could still kind of collaborate with other people. So I really liked that aspect. For that, we just had a lab report due every week, and we had to read the lab manual before class started. Next class was Calculus 3. This was my last math class that I have to take. I mean, in the math department, because most of my other classes are still going to make me do math, which is fine, but it's kind of crazy because that means I've done Calc 1, Calc 2, Calc 3, and differential equations with linear algebra, and now I'm done with math. This class was also all online, but it was more live sessions, so I had a live session every Monday and Wednesday, and then we had an optional session on Fridays because we were given a worksheet every Friday and we could go to that Zoom to ask questions if we had it, which I did several times. He would also post a couple of short videos for us to watch on Thursdays, but they were always like super quick, like they took me like 15 minutes. In addition to that worksheet that we have to do every Friday, we also had homework online using WebAssign. It was just a problem set that we had to do. We had 2 exams plus a final in this class, so pretty much the same as physics, except these were all long answer questions, so it was all like you had to write out all of your steps and you can get partial credit. We had 24 hours to do it, open note, open book, all that good stuff. My next class was statics. Statics had such a bad reputation going in, and the first few weeks in this class I was like, oh my goodness, I don't understand anything. But it was one of my few mechanical engineering classes, and I actually wound up really liking it. It was pretty much all about finding and understanding forces on rigid bodies, so things that weren't moving. It included a lot of geometry and physics, which are 2 of my favorite things, so I was quite happy once I got going in this class. But as well as that, it was also one of my toughest classes because you had to remember all of that physics and geometry, and there was so much trig I had to relearn, and just like geometric rules with like triangles. I was like, I haven't done this stuff since freshman year of high school. Like, I need a refresher. We would meet in person, which I really liked, but it was at 8 a.m. So he gave us the option to come in on Zoom, and by the end of the semester, there were about 4 of us coming in person. I personally just preferred going in person. I felt like it was easier to ask questions and make sure I was understanding the content. So even though it was really hard to get up at 8 a.m., some days I still did it. We had homework assignments pretty much every week. It was just like a problem set. I mean, it would take a while, but he only required us to do the problems that he was actually going to grade, and he would tell us which ones he was going to grade. So it was really only a couple problems out of like the 10 that he would give us, but doing them all really helped me to study for the exams and make sure I was prepared for those. We had 4 exams plus a final, but he gave us the option that if you got above an 83 average on all of the exams, then you wouldn't have to take the final, which was so nice. So once that 4th exam was over, I was done. I didn't have to do anymore. And also, if you took that option of not taking the final, then none of your homework counted either, which was nice. We did all of our exams though over Zoom, which was kind of strange. We had it at a separate time, so not at that 8 a.m. time. We had it in the evenings, which was a little annoying just because like I had to carve out that time in my schedule that I didn't originally know I was going to have. So I would always be rushing there from work, but it all worked out. It was fine. We just had an hour to do our exams, like I said, over Zoom. He would give us the exam, we'd do it all on paper and then scan it and send it back in through Blackboard. My next class was ME Analysis and Design, which is also a mechanical engineering class that I really enjoyed. It was split between 2 lectures a week that were online over Zoom, and then we had 1 lab, and the lab was in person. The lectures were relatively straightforward. They were just meant to give us a look at what the design process was, and then also at some of the kind of basics of engineering, things like gears, torque, what else did we talk about? SolidWorks, all of those types of things we talked about, and it was just supposed to give us some foundation, which I definitely appreciated. I felt like I needed that foundation. I think we had about 7 homework assignments for this class. We had a couple of group assignments that we had to do. A lot of them kind of built off of each other. We had to like design a kid's toy, which was really fun. Oh, and we had 5 quizzes that we took online, just like 20 minutes at the beginning of the lectures, which we did online, obviously, and these were just multiple choice, so they were just on a website. And then for the lab, which was, it was technically the same class, but it was like our grade was 50% in the lecture, 50% in the lab, so the lab kind of felt like its class of its own. The first few weeks of the lab, we just did a whole bunch of fun experiments. So I believe we did like a fluids lab, a Lego car design lab, like a launcher thingy. Oh, we took apart a combustion engine and a drill. All of that was a lot of fun. And then for the second half of the semester, we were put in groups and we had to all design these things called BeetleBots. And normally these are more like the BattleBot type things that you see on TV where they like fight each other or whatever, but ours are more just like racing and stuff just because of COVID. They didn't want us all like watching, and I don't really. Anyway, we just had a whole bunch of tasks that we had to make sure that this car robot thingy could complete, and it took up the second half of the semester. And it turned out to be a lot of fun in the end. It was definitely frustrating at first because we had to come up with all the needs and specs on these different things. And it was just a lot and overwhelming in the beginning, but it worked out and it was really rewarding. My last class was my career compass class. This is my half credit class and it was all online. It is normally online. I have to do it every semester. We just have to basically watch a bunch of videos, answer some questions, go to events, do some reflections. We had to do a mock interview this semester as like our big thing, and we just got feedback on that. So it's just a way to prepare us for the real world. It's a pass-fail class. It's pretty straightforward. It wasn't hard. Okay, so that was all of my classes. Now I'm just going to talk about the pros and cons of online school as a whole and the semester and just how it went. The pros, the things I really loved about having online classes was that there was no travel time. I could roll out of my bed, sit at my desk, or just stay in my bed and go to my classes. That was nice. Like, I'd be lying if I said that that wasn't nice. I could also do work between my classes, which was very nice, or take a nap, you know, depending on my mood. And just not having that travel time was really nice, as well as doing the class in my pajamas. That's definitely a pro. The other thing I really liked was that all of the lectures were recorded over Zoom, so I could go back and watch them if there was anything I didn't pick up on. I'll talk about this in my cons, but sometimes I couldn't pay attention that well whenever I was in class, and so being able to go back and look at it later was a huge pro. I also just really liked the flexibility that that gave me versus having to be in that class for that period of time. The classes where I just had to watch videos, I felt like was just better for me because I could time myself and I could fit it in when I needed to fit it in. But going after that, the con for that particular thing would be that there was little to no accountability. When you're in class, like in person, and everybody around you is paying attention and writing notes, I think that motivates me to do the same, and so not having that atmosphere was really hard. When my other roommates were in class at the same time as me, I thought it was helpful, but still not great because we tended to do it all in different rooms, and so I really had nothing to hold me accountable. Also, for some classes, I felt like it was harder for the teachers to kind of demonstrate what they're talking about because they would be working only with a screen. And I mean, they'd pick up things sometimes to show in their camera like what was going on, but I just didn't feel like at times I could understand it the same way that I would have been able to understand it if I'd seen it in person. And yeah, I kind of miss that hands-on type thing that would normally happen in a class. Finally, being in a class online means there's little to no room to kind of form relationships either with teachers or other students. I think it's easier to form relationships with the teachers if you really make an effort to go to like their office hours, to ask questions in class, to participate, but it still isn't quite the same as going in person and having those sometimes random discussions with your teacher after class, or just, I think it's harder to have, this is gonna sound bad, I feel like it's harder to have fun in a Zoom class versus in a real class, because you know, in a real class, when people are interacting and people are there, things happen or people get into discussions where it can sometimes be funny and it can lead to new things, and you don't get that the same way in a Zoom class. My final con was just that Villanova decided not to give us a fall break, which I understand why they did that, because obviously they don't want people leaving campus a bunch and going home and getting sick and then coming back and bringing it back to campus, but it definitely took a toll on mine and I know a lot of other people's mental health for the semester. The second half of the semester was so much more difficult than the first half because it had all built up and you didn't get a chance to take a breath. And they've added some working breaks for next semester because, again, we don't have a spring break for the same reason. Again, I get it, but I don't necessarily know if that is the best option because these working breaks, we still have to go to class, and just, it's hard to go all the way through without any kind of break. And it's also hard to find a solution in the current situation that kind of helps that. Okay, so that was everything about my fall semester of my sophomore year. I hope that you guys found this video helpful. If you did, please make sure to give it a like and comment below what your favorite subject in school is, or if you're in college, what you're majoring in, any of that kind of thing. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!